do
You can
on
break
that.
Yeah.
Well, it even tells you when you're recording.
It does. Now you know.
Oh, yep, we're recording. So glad we didn't have the previous stuff recorded. And if you're watching this on the recording, you missed out, and you're gonna have to call me individually to hear about what the pre-recorded webinar was about.
It's always good to have a good pre-webinar.
Meeting before the meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Wyoming JCs. I am State President Lacey, and I invited Riverton member Rhonda and Platte Valley member Joey on tonight to have a chat with us about project sponsorships and advertising, sharing some of the tips and tricks that they've learned along the way. And projects are something that all of our chapters do, and advertising our projects and getting sponsorships for our projects are important things. So I am going to turn it over to Rhonda first to talk to us about sponsorships.
Sure. Thanks. First of all, thanks so much, President Lacey, for inviting both myself and Joey onto the call. I'm really excited to be able to chat a little bit about sponsorship. So to give you a little background on myself, I've been a JC for a bit. I originally joined back in 2001 in Sheboygan, Michigan, and have been an active JC ever since. And as many of you know, this will be my last official year as a JC as I turned 40. So it's time to put me to pasture or graduate, as I like to prefer to call it, is that I get to graduate from the JCs. And hopefully I get to have a cap and gown and a diploma and all the pomp and circumstance, but that will be, yet I guess I'll have to see if I can get some sponsors for that first. So when it comes to sponsorship, I have a little professional experience as well. So I currently am in a sales position. So asking people for money has not been hard for me for a very long time. But in a little more official capacity, much like what we do with the JCs, I was the business development director for the Casper Area Chamber of Commerce for 3 years, and wore many hats there, but ultimately my job was to bring in revenue, whether that was through new membership or through non-dues revenue. And non-dues revenue is what we mostly know as sponsors and sponsorship. So whether it was sponsoring an event or just being an overall sponsor of the chamber, that was kind of one of my jobs. So I'll first talk a little bit about how I got overall sponsors, because sometimes that is something your chapter might need. So, and I'll try to relate it back to what you would do in a chapter setting. So in the chamber world, we had a tiered level where our base level membership was, I think, $300 a year, and it went all the way up to $10,000 a year. And we had different benefits that you could get in each of those tiers. So up at the top, if you were a $10,000 sponsor, your logo was plastered over everything the chamber did, whether it was an email, an event, any marketing we did, whether it was on TV or radio, your logo or your name was either on it or mentioned in what we did. And we would also give you other benefits. So we've definitely let in with like a lot of the benefits you would receive. So for example, let's say you did want to get someone to just sponsor, let's just say the Johnson County JCs, and you just needed an overall sponsor for the year. And I think Saratoga did something similar to this when they were first starting out. They got some of their businesses in town to be a sponsor for the year. And Joey, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you guys did $250 sponsorship, is that right?
Yeah, it wasn't limited to 250, but yeah, we did 250 originally to put a little money in the bank so we could start putting, getting into the community and getting our name out there, and to do some little odds and ends projects right off the get-go to kind of give us a little bit of base so we could end up in doing so. And what we did with that money is then which has become one of our more regular things, is we make pretzel necklaces. So that funded all of that and funded all of our time for our local Stanley Cup Brew Festival.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it can be as simple as that, just putting together like, hey, for $250, we're going to give you these benefits. And so something that like a local chapter might be able to do is maybe you guys do a t-shirt every year that your members wear at events. And you could put their logo on the t-shirt. You could give them, recognition at the event. The pretzel necklaces were sponsored in part by Joe's hardware store, whatever it might be. And so you can kind of go that route and just get overall sponsors for the year and let them know that they're going to be recognized at all events. Sometimes that's a little hard to do, and sometimes it's a little easier to do more of an event-based sponsor. Kind of like what Joey was saying when it came to like, would you like to sponsor the pretzel necklaces at the, I think it was a brew fest, am I correct? Or the beer, like a kind of a, I almost called it Lander Brew Fest, and I know it's not Lander Brew Fest, but
yes.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a festival, and you could have them sponsor like a certain thing. I've mostly found that businesses, when you're going to other businesses or community members or any stakeholders in your community, that when you have something specific that they're going to sponsor, that's a lot easier to get an okay. For example, when I was back at the chamber, that $10,000 level sponsorship, in my 3 years there, I sold one of those. But every year, I sold out all the sponsorships that we could potentially have for our annual banquet. And those totaled, I think, $30,000 a year. So it's a little easier to get someone to be the sponsor of something. Would you like to sponsor our pretzel necklaces? Would you like to sponsor the wine at the table? You could be the wine sponsor. If we were doing a pancake feed, which is my favorite JC project, you could be the sausage sponsor. And you could be, or you could, if you didn't want to sponsor just one specific thing, and sometimes to get in-kind sponsorships, that's super easy too. Like for the pancake feed in North Platte that we always did, we would have Perkins would donate the pancake batter. So they, in turn, became one of our sponsors because they were giving an in-kind donation. The radio station, who gave us free advertising and free airtime for it, became one of our sponsors with an in-kind donation. But the local bank was totally happy to be our sausage sponsor, our sausage patty sponsor every year. And we would even give them the opportunity to, we would have a celebrity hour where we had celebrity people participating in the event, and we'd give them the opportunity to participate in that. And they could be a flapjack flipper or a sausage cooker or a grill master of some sort. And ultimately that kind of made it fun, and it gave them an opportunity to not only just give money, but to come to the event and see it. And if they maybe didn't want to sponsor, if that's not really an opportunity for your event, you could give them a free ticket to attend or a discounted ticket or whatever it might be. You can kind of be as creative as possible. Now, some of you might be uncomfortable asking for the sponsorship. So what I typically encourage you to do is first go to the places where you can have a softball kind of versus like a hardball approach, a softball approach. So those are people that already have a vested interest in your organization, whether it be your local chamber of commerce, the employer you work for, or the employer that some of your members work for are the obvious ones to kind of start with. Also, though, we all have those businesses in town that are great community partners, right? They're always giving back. There's always that one bank in town that likes to give back a lot of time and stuff like that. So definitely go to those ones first. And if you're afraid of asking for money directly, put together a little tiny one-sheeter or even a half-sheeter of the sponsorship opportunities you'd like. And it's a menu-based approach when you present it that way. You could say, hello, Mr. Joey. we are so glad that you are here meeting with us today. And we just wanted to know if you would be interested in sponsoring our upcoming parade. Here's the list of sponsorship opportunities that we have available. And you can just have them listed with the heading, the price, and then all the benefits that they're going to get by being that sponsor. When you do a menu-based approach, people are more likely to buy something, but they are also more likely to not want to look like they want to be the cheapskate, and they won't order the cheapest thing off the menu. They'll more than likely order the second cheapest thing off the menu. So as you're going through and selling things, a menu-based approach is the easiest, when you just present it to them and ask them what they'd like to do. Sometimes they might say you need to follow up. And if you do need to follow up with them, or they need to check with someone, get a specific date and time that you're going to follow up with them. So that's great. When would be a good time for me to follow up with you? Oh, a couple of weeks. Let me role play it with Joey real quick. Joey, I understand that you want us to follow up with you. When would you like us to follow up with you?
Oh, 7 to 10 days. I've got some kind of things going on in the background where I can't really look at this right now, but definitely I'm interested and I will take a look at it, but I just can't make a decision right now.
Sure. So how about I come back in a couple of weeks? How about I come back in 2 weeks on Tuesday? How does that sound?
That should work. How about, anywhere from that 10 to noon time frame? 10
to noon, that's great. If Joey doesn't offer that, the next best thing is to say, would you like me to come morning or afternoon? Then when he says morning, I say, how about I stop by around 10 o'clock? He sounds good. And then you put a tickler in whatever system you need to put your ticklers in, whether it be your phone or whatever. If your memory's good, my memory's not good because, as I told you, I'm 40 and I'm losing my memory. So put a tickler in, and then when you go back, the way I like to approach it is, Joey, hey, thanks. As promised, I'm following up with you on this date. And so you're saying two things. You're, one, showing that you had attention to detail and you remembered when you were going to follow up. You started the conversation with saying, as promised, which already kind of puts them in the mindset that they've promised to give you a decision as well. And so you can say, did you have the opportunity to follow up? If they start to push back a little or anything like that, a really great thing to do is to put a sense of urgency behind it. We only have one more sponsorship opportunity left, or we're only needing one more sponsor to complete this round of sponsorship, however you want to put it. Or you could let them know, we do have someone else interested and this is an exclusive sponsorship. That's sometimes a way to kind of get them to pull the trigger too. Most of the time, businesses are going to be forthcoming with you. If you follow up with them a couple times and they're still kind of pushing you off, know that it's okay to cut the ties and circle back to them the next time you have a project. Persistence does pay off, but at the same time, you don't want to do it at the risk of potentially losing a supporter, even if they're not going to necessarily be a financial or an in-kind sponsor. So overall, that's kind of some of my best practices for obtaining sponsorship. If there was other people on other than Joey and Lacey, I would open it up to questions, but I'll still open it up to questions for them because they might have a specific question when it comes to sponsorship, or we can just kind of talk a little bit more about it.
I do have a question/comment. Have you found, based on the event, kind of targeting businesses that are more in that space is of more easier, say you're doing a fun run and so you're going to reach out to the gyms because they're in that health and wellness space.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great example. You don't necessarily want to go to the all-you-can-eat hot dog competition that you're going to run and ask the local obesity doctor to be the sponsor for it. You kind of want to be smart and strategic about how you're going to obtain those sponsors. So for example, Sinclair Oil, pretty big company throughout Wyoming, they love to sponsor children's events. And I found that out by having the conversation and just taking their community development person out to coffee. And I found out that if it has something to do with children or getting children active in the community, not even active physically, just out and doing things or having opportunities for them to be involved in things, they love that sort of stuff. So knowing that, I would not go to Sinclair Oil and ask them to sponsor my beer run, my 0.5K beer run, where people are going to have a beer before and after the drink or after the event, and it's mostly geared to those 21 and older. They already told me they would like to help with children's events. So definitely being smart and strategic about it. Obviously, when you do that automatically when you're looking for in-kind donations, right? If you're having a pancake breakfast, you're going to go to Perkins and ask them to donate pancake batter because they make pancakes there. You're not necessarily going to go to Sinclair Oil, for example, and ask them to donate pancake batter because you have to go and buy the pancake batter. So you're asking for an additional step when they could probably just write you the check and you could go buy the pancake batter. You already do that naturally when you're doing it for in-kind donations, so you just have to take that same mentality and apply it to when you're asking for fiscal donations. Ultimately, if you have that community sponsor in town, I suggest that before around September, October of each year, ask if you can have a sit-down meeting with them to just talk a little bit about the JCs. When you get there, you're going to share some of the great events that you do throughout the year, and you're going to ask for two things. One, are there any employees that they have that could benefit from what the JCs are doing? So you're asking for basically the sponsorship of maybe membership. Most businesses are happy to cover the cost of the membership for their members if they see a value in it. Two, you want to ask, are there any of these events that we're doing that you would be interested in sponsoring? Or what events are important to you in the community? You can even do it as, if you don't know what events you're going to be doing, ask them what events are important for you to see in the community. So then they've already told you what they would like to see in the community. You might come together and create an event like that, and then when you go back to them later on, you have said, hey, we created an event that you mentioned was important. We're looking for great people in our community to help support the event. You don't even have to say sponsor. You can just say help support the event. Would you be interested in supporting? And then at which level? If you go and do those in September, probably I would suggest doing those before September, because most businesses that run on a Gregorian calendar start to do their budgeting in the fourth quarter for the next year. And you want to make sure if it's a bigger sponsorship that you get on their radar. If you're going to be asking, I would say for $1,000 or more, you definitely want to get on their radar, because for those bigger corporations and companies, even banks and credit unions, they're going to start putting their budgets together to be approved before the end of the year. So having those meetings before September is always great. Sometimes they start planning, like Rocky Mountain Power, for example, they start their budget planning in July of every year. And so once you know that, make sure you get on their calendar and know that even if the answer is no for this year, you can ask, can we maybe get on your radar for next year? And most of the time they'll put you on it. So I think I kind of answered your question and then expanded. But yes, you definitely want to be looking for, like, you don't want to sell ice to an Eskimo. So you want to find the right fit and the right match for the customer. That's the salesperson in me, or the potential sponsor.
Well, and to kind of go off of that, one thing we've found in Sheridan is for our Christmas shopping tour, we've kind of started bumping up when we start asking for sponsorship. So we kind of are more in that September time frame, because, you know, businesses that have X amount of dollars for sponsorships towards the end of the year, they maybe have used up that money already. So if you're asking in late October for sponsorship, you know, they may be like, well, we really want to, but we've already, you know, utilized our budget for this year. So starting, you know, even though it's a December project, starting to ask a little earlier has been helpful to, you know, make sure that we are getting in people's budgets before they've already allocated those funds to other groups.
That's a great example for sure. I know a lot of our JC chapters around the country do firework festivals, and the best time to go and ask someone to be a sponsor for next year's fireworks is like the Monday after the 4th of July this year, right? Because they're just thinking of how great it was. They were just there with their family. They enjoyed it. It's top of mind. And you're already securing the sponsor for next year, like when it's right there and top of mind right after the event. So that's another great point too, Lacey. Not only is the timing of their budget important, but it's also a good time to remember to ask them, like, hey, even when you're sending thank you letters for the Christmas shopping tour, thank you so much. And you're sending those great pictures and those great examples and those like tug at your heartstring like stories. Hey, we look forward to continuing our partnership in this event in the future. And so you're kind of like laying the groundwork, and it's like an assumptive sell that they're going to continue to do it. Because just like we've learned with membership, once we get someone to join, if we get them to come back at least, let's say 3 times, 3 years, right? If they renew for 3 years, the likelihood of us keeping them as a member has grown exponentially. Like it's almost, I don't even remember what the percentage was, but it's almost like once you get them in, you kind of lock them in. The same is true for sponsorships. Once you get that person to sponsor 1, 2, or 3 years, unless you do something really major or there's a major life or change in circumstances for that business, you're probably going to have them locked in as a long-term sponsor of that event. And I would probably, just to the point, would that be the case with the Christmas shopping tour, Lacey? Are the ones that have been sponsoring for multiple years, do they continue to sponsor?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. It's kind of like Netflix, right? Once it starts coming out of your account automatically, you just kind of keep doing it. And it's the same mindset. The subscription is just a little different.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Rhonda, for all of your insights on sponsorships.
I have one thing.
Okay, go ahead, Joey.
And Rhonda, you're talking, a lot about, say Casper and the Perkins, and they're going to donate the pancake batter, and that's why that makes so much sense, and it does. And then you come to a place like Saratoga or the Platte Valley, we don't have a national chain. We don't have anything, and so we have the same small businesses throughout. So you were talking about the menu item. And so it's like we're not the only ones asking these businesses for money throughout the year, and so it's really, you've got to have quite the quality event for them to give money, or you said matching what you're selling to your client, like with Sinclair with the kids. That is something that we have to do a very big time, is because it's like and when I get into the advertising a little bit, I'll talk about kind of some examples, but we're asking the same businesses, the same few businesses for the same amount of money that another maybe nonprofit, another organization that is doing something great, we're asking for that same money, because summer in Wyoming is all of like 8 days long, and then we're lucky enough that we have a really big winter event. But throughout the summer, there's like 6, 7 things, 8 things that spreads even all of Carbon County out throughout the weekends. And so we're asking for the participation. We're kind of cutthroat battling, in retrospect for those same dollars and for that same participation. So what we have learned is that that the menu item is, because there's a lot of businesses, like you were talking about the bank. Yeah, I agree with that. We have that same thing with the banks. The banks give out a lot. They give to their communities. I mean, that is that's one of their main things, and that benefits them in the long run, because they're seeing their name on everything, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe people will come to my business by doing this. So sponsorship does benefit them down the line, especially in such a little community like us. But the menu items is pretty much the only way we can sell anything in such a small area.
That's a really good point. And you brought up something too, Joey, that I think I'd love to expand on. So you're right. If you don't have a really quality event, it's going to be hard to differentiate yourself from the other groups that are raising money for their cause. So it's either the cause has to pull at their heartstrings, or the event just has to be super caliber for sure. One thing that I've noticed, if I go someplace and they're just not interested in the event at all, it's sometimes just a good conversation to still have with them. Explain what the mission is of the JCs, that we're We're trying to develop the young leaders in our organization and ultimately build a better community. What are some things that you would like to see built better in our, like what's something that you'd like to see that we do better as a community? And get some of their feedback, because then you're kind of doing a community survey while you're also looking for sponsorship, and you're getting feedback from them. And so maybe, and I think you guys already do this, but maybe you're talking to someone and they're like, well, we'd like to see, there's a lot of fishing tournaments in Saratoga, right? We'd really like to see a kids fishing tournament. And so you kind of get that feedback from them. And if you hear that from enough people in town, then that's your cue to be like, well, hey, here's a need that some of our businesses have said they would love to see happen. And then you also have a list of businesses to go right back to and say, hey, Mr. Business Owner, we listened to you and we want to develop, this project or, whatever it is, or this event. Would you like to help us and kind of partner with us on the event? And so you've already uncovered something that they're looking for. So even if it's a small business that's always getting hit up and it's just hard to, for them to say yes or no, because they don't want to be seen as not being supportive. Even just taking those couple extra minutes and having a conversation with them sometimes has turned into our best ideas and our best projects. Instead of trying to force a project that we had the idea on to the community, having the community give us the idea for the project makes it a lot easier to sell and get involvement and ultimately be successful.
Sure. And another thing is getting sponsors down the line. One thing that when we were really in our infancy, that we volunteered a lot. And so that got businesses being like, oh, they're out here, they're doing things, they're trying things, even though before we had any events of our own, besides pretzel necklaces at the brew store, at the brew festival, and then so we volunteered a lot. We wrapped Christmas presents for a business. And now that business does sponsor our duathlon that we hold in the summer, strictly because we gave to them and we helped them out with their thing. And just volunteering at certain businesses, being like, hey, we can lend a few hours or whatever. And another thing we did really on that I feel like that has helped us with sponsorships down the line is our Chamber of Commerce puts on a gala of the trees, a Christmas tree, where you auction off different trees. And so like the fishing shop does a tree full of like flies and fishing gear, but we did one where we took just a Charlie Brown Christmas tree and we put a bunch of kids' toys, like hammers and shovels and stuff all over it because we didn't have a lot of money. And then we auctioned off 20 man hours. And then so that was bought up by a local business, and now that business is on board with us moving forward.
That's great. And you said something so key when you were first starting out. You volunteered at a lot of events. You have to get your name out there. You have to show that you're willing to be part of the community and you're not just there asking for dollars. They know that you have a vested interest in the community, and they know that you're going to be hard workers when it comes to it. So good job. Great advice. So thanks. Thanks again, Lacey, for letting me chat a little bit. I'm now kind of looking forward to hearing all.
Oh, did the puppy hit mute?
Yeah, the puppy hit mute.
Yeah.
The puppy hit mute. So.
Which puppy is this?
This is Hubert.
Hi, Hubert.
He's named after our favorite, and this is Max. Now that he's paying attention, Max had to join. Hubert's named after our favorite beer that Snake River makes, and Max is just Max. So.
All right. Well, thank you again, Rhonda. And now I will turn it over to Joey to talk about advertising, and I think there were a couple other sponsorship things that Joey was going to talk about that they've done in the Platte Valley.
All right. Well, thank you, Lacey, and Rhonda, thank you for your presentation. And really the one thing, I guess we'll just kind of start with that one sponsorship key is we have found that we have one heck of a seller. And so she kind of leads our sponsorship efforts throughout the year. And that Christine Anderson just happens to be our treasurer as well. So it is the perfect fit, because then she's seeing the money, she's handling the checkbook, and then reporting on. So we found a rock star salesperson, just like Rhonda. That's what you have so much experience in doing. We have found that rock star person to kind of lead the lead the sponsorship efforts along with creating a committee. And so the people that are really uncomfortable with not selling, that kind of makes them, it doesn't push them necessarily out of their comfort zone. So, and maybe they're a really good day of the event person, and so they're not out selling, where you can really maximize your team to move forward. So that's just kind of the last thing I had. That's kind of what we do is we just have a rock star sponsorship committee, because I'm going to be using an event as an example. That's a very expensive event to put on, just so I can really get into some advertising. A little bit about it. So I'm Joey. I'm the vice president of the Flat Valley JCs. I've worked in the radio industry for now about 10, 11 years. And so I do work at our local radio stations here in Saratoga. So and I want to thank Lacey for having me to come on and talk about this. So first of all, when you're going to advertise an event, you gotta think about it. What is your event? I'm going to use our event of skijoring as an example that we actually partner with our local Lions Club on. But so skijoring is an event where horses pull skiers over jumps and through gates, and it's a whole hoopla, and it's like drag racing on the snow behind a horse. And so that event, so what is your event? So based on Riverton in their Relay for Life, or the Christmas shopping tour. What is your event? Is it going to sound better on the radio, or is it going to look better in print? And you want to maximize based off of what you're trying to sell in advertising. So then you're going to go ahead and you're going to be like, okay, what kind of budget do I have for this event? And then you're going to look into, your different print rates, your different on-air rates. And I guess in Casper, you also have the option of TV. I think Riverton, you've got K2 has a branch up there as well, or in Riverton as well. So then you're going to take a look at your different media platforms, and most likely you're going to get the nonprofit rate, no matter what it is, print, radio. The one thing we won't get a nonprofit in is social media. So you're going to go ahead and look into that. So for skijoring, we use a couple of different things. And what Rhonda was saying, as they did in kind, the radio stations did in kind. And so we purchased a schedule through the radio stations, and then that station did a match on top of that. So for a $500 radio buy, we got $1,000 worth of advertising based onto that. And then in the print advertising, in our area, we've got a paper that comes out twice a week and one paper that comes out once a week. So doing your thank yous to your sponsors, it's really big. It's really important in advertising. Your final bit of advertising budget should go to a thank you. And of course, you've got your $1,000 sponsors all the way down to your $50 sponsors. And that's one thing that you can include in your sponsorship. Is Rhonda was talking the menu, the straight up dish of entrees of advertising and sponsorships. So the two really tie in together. But really, in one thing is one thing that I recommend personally is not to guarantee your sponsors airtime or print time until that final bit, because then you're really taking away of what you're really trying to accomplish. So whether it's you decide that your event, like if you're going to have a concert with skijoring, we had a concert where Chancey Williams comes and it sells out our venue. And so this is really cool in a sense that, of course, we're going to go with radio a lot because we're going to have Chancey Williams, and Chancey Williams is going to help sell the skijoring event as well. So we're going to use Chancey Williams's music behind that. And then so the Platte Valley Community Center is the venue in Saratoga that hosts that is going to have Chancey Williams. So then they use their radio advertising and direct it all towards the event as well. So now you've got different media or different clients all putting their advertising dollars to your efforts. So you're pretty much getting an extra free bit of advertising based on the event. And the event has got to be the quality of the event for that to happen, of course. So how skijoring came to be is we used to be a chariot races stop, and the chariot races was starting to decline. The JCs brought the idea to the Lions Club of Skidjoring for the year next, and then we ended up putting on in about 6 months. Um, but but that's when we were really young. We didn't have a bankroll to put this event on, and then so we ended up in getting a partnership put on with the Lions clubs. And then print advertising. You've also got to look at your for an event like that. You've got to look at your programs for the event, so you can use some advertising budget. And there, social media is a great place to advertise whatever you've got going on, even if it's the Christmas shopping or the relay or a pancake bread. Everyone wants pancakes. So you go ahead and you get on. The great thing about Facebook is when you promote a post, it kind of comes with Instagram, and you can kind of you set your budget to that. And we have one person that handles all of that, a graphic designer, and she does some of that stuff. And so we hand her a budget. So you've got $500 from November to February, boost posts, and let's pick our markets. And before I get into markets, actually I do want to get into markets right now. So your tourism money is huge when it comes to advertising your local events, if you can get it. And so we have a 2-day event in Skidjoring, and so our Carbon County Visitors Council offers up to $4,000 per event. And some of that money can go to advertising, and some of that money can go to cash payouts for in our event. It goes to placements in the top and the winners. But so with the Visitors Council and in our situation, our Visitors Council, if you advertise out of county, it's fully reimbursable. And so you pay that money. Say you pay that $500, like I mentioned, to the radio station. When you wrap up your grant, they're going to reimburse you that full $500 because it was out of county. And the radio station, so we're fully Carbon County, but we get into Laramie, we get up to Casper Mountain, we get down into Craig, Colorado, and all the way over to almost Rock Springs, Point of Rocks. And so we're considered an out of county. And then where our local papers are in county. So of course we want to make sure where we can make our money back a little bit, but we also want to use those outlets as well, because of the fact that they are really big to a certain generation. Print advertising versus radio advertising comes, there's the battles of whatever, but really it comes down to getting the bang for your buck in advertising and who's going to give you the best way to get people here to your event. Another thing that we've done is out of Cheyenne, the day weather meteorologist center. So Don Day, who owns that, we buy his weather sponsorship, and so then we get to cherry pick where those ads are getting played. And so we can put ads in Casper. We put ads. We like to focus Cheyenne, Fort Collins, kind of the Front Range of Colorado, and that's out of county advertising through the Visitors Council, which is fully reimbursable. And so we do that. You don't want to do advertising out of county so much leading up to the date. You want to get your message out early, so people can circle it in their date. They're like, oh yeah, we can go to this event a couple of months out. So strategically placing your advertising based on, let's just jam pack it all the way up until the event. The 2, 3, 4 days before your event, that's when your advertising is probably the least effective, because if people haven't heard it or seen it, then they've already got plans. And so you're gonna want to base your advertising and leading up to the event, then maybe with a quick switch and boom, like don't forget this weekend. So I would really encourage to check into your situation with a visitors council or a tourism board through grant applications and money. And a lot of times those grants, like we're applying for a grant in February all the way back out in like August of the month before. So I would definitely get involved. Um, Check, at least all you can do is ask, and to see what kind of options that they have available. The Visitors Council is one of our number one, and then you put the little local tag on it, produced in cooperation with the Carbon County Visitors Council. But that allows us so much more reach, just simply based on placing advertising with kind of some of the different companies that I have I've met. Also, your local chamber of commerce is absolutely outstanding. They're going to have a wealth of information. Most likely, you're a nonprofit, and they'll put you in their newsletters. They'll blast you on their Facebook pages because they are promoting events, because they're promoting chamber. They're promoting commerce in your areas. So they're going to they want people in your hotels. They want people buying and supporting their members and their local businesses. So they're going to, when a big event comes around, most of the time, at least in my experience, they're going to go ahead and blast the event all over the place. And then they're going to benefit from handing out their little card that has all of the chamber memberships on it, and be like, you want a great steak while you're here? Well, eat here. You want a great, go soak in the hot pools, do this, or go, do whatever, shop at these local businesses. So not only does the advertising of your event, it actually brings in brings in economy for you, and brings in the commerce to your community. I mean, during our scheduling event, so we started out, and then we really focused on our marketing and our advertising efforts this last year, and we got to the point where we were running 104 races a day out at our tracks, and a big thank you to our sponsors, and of course, and all of that, because in an event like this, one year we didn't have snow, and it's kind of hard to pull skiers behind a horse with no snow. And so a lot of that we had to haul snow, and that's where advertising and advertising and sponsorships come. So they're so tightly knit, as all of a sudden Rhonda really she mentioned in-kind donations. And so not only did a trucking company burn a ton of fuel, but they hauled us in snow and everything. So, and then when you're selling your sponsorship, and you're combining that with your advertising, make sure that those top tier sponsors, whatever, they're getting their name advertised at your event. So the advertising doesn't necessarily stop at the event, or leading up to the event, but it goes into the event to make sure that your sponsors and the people that are financially backing your event are feel welcome and don't feel like they're getting kind of gypped by you. So that's kind of where we're at with kind of advertising, and if it will put heads in beds, and that's what you got to ask yourself with your tourism. But reach out. It's Wyoming. People are pretty kind in a sense. Oh, I guess one thing I didn't get onto was Google search engine optimization. You put in, it kind of works like the Facebook and Instagram, where you pay for ads, and then you put in buzzwords, and so where's the event happening? I'm really big on the location of the event. So you're going to put Saratoga. So anytime for the amount of time that you paid for, that Saratoga gets typed into Google, you're going to be battling. By the way, we're battling Saratoga, New York, and all those horse races up there. So Saratoga and Skijoring, a horse race in Saratoga, Wyoming, we're kind of battling Saratoga, New York, just because they're a horse town, and so, which we've learned, and so you want to get some good buzzwords, Skijoring, skiing, and all of kind of the outdoor stuff and recreation, and so you get so many buzzwords per, or search engine optimization. You get so many words per thing per Google, and then so you're trying to, anytime that those words get typed in, you're coming up as a paid sponsor, and then we link our SaratogaSkijoring.com website to that, and so that pops up, and we saw really big numbers from Google, and so the thing is, so with an event like that, we're reaching out to different types of individuals. We're reaching out to the horse people, the ranchers, as well as we're reaching out to skiers. And a lot of times that is a different demographic of human being, and we're bringing all them together. So, but where online media may really hit some, print advertising along with on the radio advertising, or maybe TV, if you have TV, really works into that. So really trying to reach to the all demographics that you know what is going to be there is going to be beneficial. But also then when you're making that decision, you're like, well, I want to get on the radio, and I want to get in the newspaper, and I want to get onto Facebook, and I want to get onto Instagram, but you only have $1,000 budget. You're going to want to maybe cut 2 of those, and you're going to want to use the 2 that are most going to be beneficial, or what you think is going to be beneficial to you. Say radio's just not, it's not going to work for you because you're putting on this fun run or whatever. Maybe then it's better to really push online and print advertising, because running on the radio, that's not very exciting. And so you'd want to, but if people look, at the runner and the 5K and the beer afterwards or whatever, as Rhonda was talking about an event. So maybe you'd really want to put your focus more into the print, where people can see the event with the link to sign up. And so then that kind of brings it back is to what is your event, and is it going to look better in print or sound better on some type of audio platform? That's kind of my look at advertising on all sides of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Joey. And I was going to highlight a point that you made that kind of ties into this whole conversation of, you have a member that's really great at selling and sponsorships, and you work in the radio industry. So, take advantage of those members that have those skills. And actually recently heard of a chapter in another state. They felt like they were lacking in their marketing, and so they went out and targeted a member that worked in marketing, and brought her into the organization, and then she was really able to amp up the chapter's marketing, because that's what she does. That's where her natural skill set is, and was able to bring those tools from her career. So, definitely take advantage of skills that your members have. I know in Sheridan, we had a member that for a long time, we didn't know that she came from an art and graphic design background. She was working in banking, so we didn't know that she had that background. And then, during one of our committee meetings, she was, I can make the poster or the flyer for this, but we didn't know before that she had that skill. So definitely take advantage of the skill sets that your members have, and get to know them and know where they have skills and interests. And if you find that you don't have those members, go out and try and recruit them. Recruit somebody from the radio station or the newspaper. Because I know the newspaper people they're always looking for filler stories, and if they know what the JCs have going on all the time, they may be more willing to put those pieces about your group and your events out there. One thing we do and can take advantage of here in Sheridan is doing public service announcements on the radio. So we don't have to pay for those. So we have used those for our events as free advertising. It's just a short snippet about it, and then that's a free radio advertising opportunity.
Yeah, and it's kind of, we offer that as well, speaking on behalf of the radio station. But a lot of times, and that's a perk that a lot of radio stations do have. Every radio station I've worked for has, the public service announcement, the community calendar, the 411 or whatever it may be, whatever that station calls it. and really what it comes in, and Lacey, you're saying you're getting it for free, and most businesses will do that offers a public service as long as you're not spending money with another company, and because that's just bad business, and to spend money with one company and get something for free from another. So and then that's how you stay respectful to that, because a lot of times that those companies, whether it be your print or your radio or whatever, really brings it all together. They're going to be there for you in the long run. You may get that snippet, if you kind of play by the rules of advertising. I guess one thing I guess I didn't mention, not to drag on, but we used being so close to Laramie, we used the Branding Iron, which is the student newspaper, very heavily this last year. And they loved what we were doing, and they gave us like $1,500 worth of advertising for 6. And they put us front page, they put us on the website. And which was really cool is then we targeted all of those Laramie students to come over and enjoy the 3-day weekend and the event as well. So really, I guess if you're in an area like that, you could really target a demographic really well through advertising.
Awesome.
Yeah, if I could jump in and just add to that, there's a few things that you guys said, so I hope I can remember all my what I want to do but that's a great point, Joey. And I think also when you were making the point about asking someone for free advertising when you're paying for advertising with someone else, yeah, that's a big no. It's just that's not respecting the other business and their model. You can ask everyone for free, that's fine, and you can pay everyone, that's fine, but don't pick and choose like that. 2, it's sometimes good to get on those morning like talk shows, and whether it be on the radio, on the newspaper, or on the television. It seems like the morning talk, either talk radio or the talk shows on TV, are longer than the prime time. They don't have as many viewers, but then they're going to give you more time to talk about it. Radio is probably opposite. They probably have more listeners during the day than the early morning talk, like the one that starts at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Anytime I'm on K2 TV, I had to be at the station at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not naturally up at 5 o'clock in the morning. There are special people in this world that are. They probably also run on purpose. So I'm just not one of those people. But those are really good. And then I got a good tip one time when I was at a young professionals type conference. They were talking about it. They had the CEO that started, he's no longer there, the CEO that started AOL when America Online was there. And their goal was ultimately, back in the day, they were trying to keep people online because you paid by the minute to be on the internet back then. There's still countries you pay by the internet or pay by the minute to be on the internet. And so they were trying to come up with content to keep people on there and look, and that's how landing pages ended up kind of becoming like news, deliverers. They would have like hyperlinks and links so that you would stay online longer. I don't know how he knew this, but if there's a daily paper in your community that prints all 7 days of the week, the best time to send a press release to them or to get attention for them is a Friday morning. Because Friday morning, they are not working on they're not only working on Monday's paper because of the weekend. They're also trying to fill things for Saturday and Sunday in that newspaper too. So if you send press releases on Friday mornings to newspapers specifically, and if it's a daily paper, they're actually looking for content for 3 days worth of paper. So you're more likely to get maybe a more prominent placing in it, or a news story on it, or just being included and getting their attention at all. So that was a good piece of advice. I don't know that it's worked for me, but that seemed logical, so I'm sharing it with you. Lacey, you also mentioned something about asking what people want to get involved with, like the banker that happened to have graphic design experience. Just a small point to point out, be cognizant when you're asking people for help. Yeah, they might be a great graphic designer and that might be what they do all day long, but they might join the JC to develop skills in other areas too. So give them the opportunity to, maybe they want to try their hand at asking for sponsorships or more of the behind the scenes planning. I know the bankers always seem to get asked to be the treasurers of every group, right? Because it's just natural for them. That's what they do all day long at work. But be sure to make sure you're asking them what they might want to do, because like Lacey said, she found out that the banker had a lot of experience in graphic design, and it was a way for them to get involved. Also, we have to always be remembering, Joey had mentioned that they have that sponsorship team that goes out. Always be recruiting for that sponsorship or team, because ultimately we're going to age out or move on or get burnt out because we're always asked to do the same thing over and over again. So make sure you're always recruiting and filling that pipeline for that. And you're not just relying on that one person, because if that one person, God forbid, something happened to them or they left the organization and they took all of the institutional knowledge with them of who you talked to at Rocky Mountain Power and who you talked to at the hotel down the street and who you talked to at this bank and that sort of stuff, that goes with them. So if we're not constantly adding people to that, we're going to find ourselves in a lurch at some point in time. Sorry, that was a lot of information, but I was trying to remember all the points that you guys made.
Thank you. And thank you again, Rhonda, and thank you again, Joey. I guess if you guys have any additional comments before we wrap it up here, we can take those now, and then otherwise we can sign off for the evening.
All right, I know I learned quite a bit from Rhonda tonight, so.
I learned just as much from you guys too. Like that's the great thing about our organization, right? We're constantly learning, and I could be in this almost 20 years and be still learning things each and every day. So I love it. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Lacey, again. Thanks, Joey.
Well, and this has been our opportunity to learn from all of your knowledge, Rhonda, before you do graduate and move on. So.
Before I get sent to that farm to live on.
Here it's got the good stuff though.
All right. Well, thank you again to Rhonda and Joey. I hope that we all learned something here tonight. So others tune in later, and we can continue to grow our projects and events with these skills that we've learned here tonight. So,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.